at home. After starting a homestand pretty 3-1 in back-to-back games, they get absolutely housed. I know tonight wasn't as brutal as the 30-point L they took on Sunday to Sacramento, but this was a game that I know the Warriors had a couple of opportunities down the stretch there, but they did not deserve to win this basketball game. They went into the fourth quarter down by 6. At one point, they cut it to 1 in the fourth quarter, and then a Miami Heat 9-0 run put it back to 10 and essentially put the game out of reach. And it was that kind of night. It was that kind of night for the Warriors. Everybody else not named Stephen Curry, and it was also that kind of game. Look, I can recall 2 home games last year. And it was around this time, a little earlier in the month of December, I believe. And actually, they had a loss to the Miami Heat on December 28th. That was at home to a G League-led Miami Heat group. And they came in and they took the Warriors' lunch. It was one of the more disappointing losses last season. But the games that I can recall being the lowest point in 2023-24 or back-to-back home games when the Toronto Raptors beat the Warriors handedly here at Chase Center. I was not at that game, but there were boos. I was at the next game. It might have been the next night even, against the New Orleans Pelicans, and they went down by close to 40, maybe even 50. I mean, that game was never in question, and they just got absolutely ransacked by a Pelicans team that last year was pretty good, no longer is, but there were boos cascading down back-to-back games. And, infamously remember Klay Thompson saying, basically, why are fans booing? We've given them so much. Let them boo all they want. I don't care. The Warriors are a point about 365 days later where they need to care. They need to care because tonight it did not look like they did against a Miami Heat team that was without Jimmy Butler, who is suspended, who played last night in Sacramento 58 minutes long because they played in double overtime, and they lost, and had lost 3 games in a row coming into this, including a loss to a Utah Jazz team, which is not very good. Miami has not been playing good basketball. Golden State hasn't either. But tonight was an absolutely inexcusable, embarrassing loss for the Golden State Warriors in a game that you don't want to ever call it a must-win this early in the season, but it was a gotta-have-it game. It was an absolutely gettable game for the Golden State Warriors, and pretty much the story of this game is just going to be missed jump shots, missed layups by everybody not named Steph Curry. Steph Curry was about the only reason that I think there was not boos tonight. 30 was the only reason why there was not that cascade of boos that I mentioned that happened last year against New Orleans and Toronto. He was the only reason that you would turn on the television tonight to watch this basketball game. And he's really, I think, symbolic. This performance tonight is symbolic of the effort that he's put forth this season. There have not been many good games that the Warriors have put together lately. After the 13-2 start, I believe the record is now 6-15 in the last 21 games that they have played. They have not played winning basketball. They have not played close to winning basketball. And offensively, they've been absolutely abhorrent to watch. Curry tonight had it going. He had 31 points on 11 of 22, 8 of 17 from three-point range, and also 7 rebounds. I think it was very telling tonight because everyone who watched this game knows that it was a one-man band. Everybody who watched this game knows that Steph Curry basically tried to put the team on his back. And he did that. He had 31 points, 0 assists. 0 assists. There are not many games in which Curry does not have a single assist by just throwing it to a guy at the end of the shot clock and bailing him out. Maybe hitting a cutter on a drive. No, Curry was in gunner mode. And it wasn't necessarily because he wanted to be. It's because he had to be. This game was a brutal game to watch if you're a fan of jump shooting. I mean, my God, the Golden State Warriors, outside of Steph, were atrocious. 3-point land alone. They went 6 for 33. Everyone not named Curry. They, as a team, Curry went 8 of 17, nearly 50% from three-point range. This team shot 28% on 50 attempts tonight from 3. Lindy Waters, 0 for 4. Dennis Schroeder, 1 for 7. Buddy Hield, 2 for 9. Moses Moody, 1 for 4. Draymond Green, 0 for 3. Wiggins, 1 for 3. Guy Santos even tried to chip in and couldn't hit a shot. I mean, it was a build-a-bricks performance by Golden State. And again, it was a team that was asking to basically roll over. Like Miami is a buttoned-up group, and I talked about this on Warriors Live, that the way that the Warriors could let the Heat be in this game is essentially by making mistakes, taking bad shots, and not showing up. All they had to do was show up tonight, and I think they win this game against a Heat team that does, to their credit, the Heat always show up. They will put forth effort, whether it's on the front end or, in this case, the back end of a back-to-back after playing close to 50 minutes, the majority of their starters last night. And this is how they did it. Again, the Heat, this was a one-point game in the fourth quarter. The Heat did not play anybody more than 34 minutes, and the guy who played the most was Nikola Jovic, who had it going tonight, and that's why he played. Tyler Hero did not play well tonight. He went 4-14 from the floor, played 26 minutes. Bam Adebayo was really good in the second half. I didn't think he was incredibly impactful in the first half. He played 30 minutes tonight. Jaime Jaquez, who played 48 minutes last night in Sacramento, was good offensively. Didn't play a spectacular game. He played 29 minutes. Duncan Robinson chipped in off the bench with 12 points, all on three-point shots, 21 minutes. Like, they basically used their depth in the way that the Warriors had used their depth early in the season to win this game tonight, a game that the Warriors, I thought, had an absolutely fantastic chance of winning and should have won tonight. This is a bad loss. Is it the worst loss of the season? I mean, this is where we start to have that conversation because the Warriors have, again, stacked up so many over the last month and a half that it's really difficult to count. But obviously losing to Memphis by 40 points, by 50 points, that is a bad loss. Probably the worst one statistically of the season. As far as, effort right out of the gates, Sacramento kind of points to that, 30-point blowout at home. But tonight was the most embarrassing because you had everything on your side. I realized that Kuminga, Podziemski, and Gary Payton II were hurt. But the Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler. And I know he hasn't played well this year, but he's their best player. The Warriors missed the kids today. I get that. They missed Kuminga. They absolutely missed Kuminga. And this was really the first time where going into it, you felt like you knew that you would miss his offensive presence. But it was a brick-a-thon. And everyone outside of Steph Curry could not find nylon. I know that there's an allergen going around the NBA, apparently. R.C. Davis and Tim Roy were talking about it before they handed it off to me here on Warriors Wrap-Up. But I don't know if they're just allergic to net. Tonight, the Golden State Warriors, again, could not crack 100 as they score only 98 points. That now, again, in the last 15 games, the Golden State Warriors have eclipsed 120 points 2 times. They have eclipsed 130 points 1 time. They have been under 100 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. 8 times in their last 21 games, the Golden State Warriors have failed to score 100 points. That is the sign of an anemic offense, of an absolutely inefficient offense, and one that is not a move away. I don't know if anybody was watching this game thinking, oh my gosh, they got to get help, they got to make trades, they got to do this. Well, obviously Curry needs help. He cannot do it by himself, even at this age. The Warriors are now 5-2 when he scores 30 or more points. That was a 7th 30-point game of the season for him. The other loss that the Warriors suffered when he scored 30 was on Christmas Day against the Los Angeles Lakers. But I think it just leaves us all speechless. I put this out on social media, and you can check it out at Evan A. Giddings. But there was a video of Curry that I took right at the end of the game, right before he subbed out for the last time, in which he is just walking around aimlessly, and he sits and he looks up. And I couldn't tell if it was at the scoreboard, if it was fans leaving in droves. Maybe it was at someone who booed. There was a couple of those ringing out, though they were kind of, not directed at Curry, obviously. I don't know what he was looking at, but he took like a 3-second pause and just stared into the distance, into some seamless end of existence, because we are in game 36, now 37 on Thursday against Detroit, and Curry is out of answers. This team looks to be out of answers. And I thought Steve Kerr put it perfectly. We're going to hear from him in a little bit. But they're suffering a crisis of confidence right now, and it is brutally apparent because this loss tonight should not have happened in the fashion that it did. I know that they cut it to 1 point in the fourth quarter. That game was not as close as it seemingly was. If the Warriors had won this game tonight, in my opinion, with the effort that they displayed, specifically in the first half against a team that should have been gassed on the tail end of a back-to-back, they also lost to Sacramento on the tail end of a back-to-back. This Warriors team should be embarrassed by this loss tonight. It is a bad one. It might be the most embarrassing of the season, though it's not the worst loss. And overall, it's because of, I think, just the feeling of helplessness that Curry, again, had on his face staring into the rafters, and the feeling of helplessness that surrounds this Warriors team that is, again, back to 500 and has now lost 15 of their last 21 games dating back to late November. So 888-957-9570 is the number, and we're going to, of course, take some calls. I want to get the Comcast Business Text line opened up as well. But, this is a game that the Warriors are going to have to look themselves in the mirror and try and battle back from, because that's the other part that I mentioned on Warriors Live, that is, it doesn't look like there's much help coming. And I think that's another reason why Curry, the look into the distance was of such helplessness, is because I think he is fully aware that this front office is either incapable or doesn't want to make a move at this specific time. I don't think we're going to see a trade tomorrow. And I cannot believe where things have gotten to. But at the same time, it's been trending in this direction for a little bit. And there's nothing that the Warriors have been able to do personnel or rotation, strategic-wise. I think Kerr has run out of answers. I think Kerr is going to be, like, if I had to guess of what happens tomorrow, when I guess they're going to get on a plane and head to Detroit for a back-to-back, but if there's one thing that Kerr and Curry could do is sit down and have an honest conversation with Mike Dunleavy Jr. and perhaps even Joe Lacob, because there's a lot of things that need to be addressed with this basketball team right now. And Curry is not certainly somebody that hasn't had bad games, but he's been the least of their problems. And everything, at the same time, paradoxically speaking, is centered around him. The Warriors, and I think you saw it tonight in so many different scenarios, that is just something that, the game revolves around him in every single shape and form. And if he doesn't have it going, if the Warriors don't have it going, then they're going to lose a lot more games. The 510, the Comcast Business Text line, they can't shoot or drive. 510, with Kuminga out, this team is just bad. They need to make a bunch of trades or plan to tank. From the 408, Lindy Waters need to stop playing him. 262, Moody just needs to get after it. And look, there's a couple bright spots about this game. Like Trace Jackson-Davis had 19 and 7. He obviously had a poster on Kel'el Ware, the first-round pick of the Miami Heat. I thought that was where the most juice was in this game, and that's kind of the point, is that this game, there was maybe 2 or 3 instances of energy and life that prevented what probably was going to happen, which was the Warriors getting booed at home. To my knowledge, they have not been booed yet. But down the stretch of that game, when it was brick after miss 3 after miss 3 after miss 3, you could hear a couple ring out. And it felt like the only reason it didn't is because Curry had 31 and tried his best to will this team back, and also because of something like Trace Jackson-Davis's dunk over Kel'el Ware. So, there were maybe a couple things that prevented it from getting to the lowest point this season as far as, I think, the feeling in the arena. But overall, there was just not a lot of juice, and it was something that I think was really difficult for a lot of people to watch. So, again, 888-957-9570 is the number. Cam, if we have any, please dial them up. I would love to get people in on this conversation. Again, 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up Live from the team store here at Golden State, where the Warriors fall to the Miami Heat 114-98. So, oh gosh, guys and gals, just trying to figure this thing out as a whole. And to me, as far as this game is concerned, I think there was a 1:10 stretch in the fourth quarter. It was when the Warriors had cut it to 3, from 9:27 to 8:17. It was really just a a flurry of multiple things. But what happens is, so Rozier gets a tech. That cuts it from 87 to 86, with Curry making the free throw. They come down. Jovic hits a corner three in response. And then Curry comes down, along with Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters misses an open three, I believe. And I just want to get this right, because to me, this was the ball game, and really has been the season in a nutshell here. So Curry makes the free throw, 87-86. Curry then, the next possession that the Warriors get an inbounds, takes a deep three. In fact, it was listed as a 36-footer. Adebayo gets the rebound. They go up. Jovic hits a three in the corner, makes it then a 4-point game. They come down. Warriors get a good look. A Lindy Waters, the third, missed corner three. Then he'd come down again. They throw to Jovic in the corner. Curry commits the foul on a 3-point make. It's a 4-point play, even though Jovic missed the free throw. And then the Warriors come down again. Curry takes a 31-foot pull-up three from, I think, the right side of the front court. Misses back iron. And then the Heat basically just walk down the floor. Alec Burks steps into a wide-open three-pointer, hits it, and just like that, it's a 9-0 run. It's a 10-point game. In the span of a minute and 10 seconds, the Warriors went from down 1 with momentum to down 10, and the game, in my mind, was over. And the reason why is because of the reliance and dependence on Steph Curry. What happened in that minute and 10-second stretch, in my mind, is very simple. Curry, who had it going and visibly saw that no one else did, is chucking prayers from 30 feet and beyond, not because he wants to, not because he can't get a better shot. It's because it's by necessity. Well, everybody else is just watching. And this hasn't been just a one-game thing. This has been over the course of, again, their 6-15 and 21 stretch. It is Curry chucking prayers by necessity, everybody else watching, while insert specific opponent capitalizes on the Warriors' desperation by moving the ball up the floor, playing with pace, and taking advantage of a defense that is sometimes good and sometimes not, but more importantly, their offense cannot generate consistently. That, in my mind, was the ball game. I mean, you saw different examples of it throughout the game. Even in the first half, in the first quarter, you just saw how Curry cannot do it by himself. The Warriors go up 14-8. Miami responds with a quick 8-0 run. You know, Ware comes in the game, starts disrupting things defensively, and then with 2:50 left in the quarter, Curry takes a 28-foot three-pointer, not necessarily because he can't go get something later in the shot clock, but because, in my mind, there's this sense when he's on the floor and when he does have it going, that whenever he has an open look, that's not just going to be the best shot for him, but that's going to be the best shot of the possession for the Warriors. And you know, the Warriors actually, I think, on that possession got an offensive rebound, and then slow-mo just threw it into the seats. And I don't think Kyle Anderson played a poor game by any means, but that possession is also just another microcosm for the way things have been going, because they are so Curry dependent that I think, number one, it makes them obviously easier to guard. I think it also has put a lot of pressure, not because Steph wants to, but when everyone else can't make a shot and everyone else knows it and everyone else sees how good Curry has been and how good he's playing in a game, for example, like tonight. I think there's just unwarranted pressure that is apparently heaped upon the shoulders of players that cannot carry that weight. They can't. Dennis Schroeder is brought in here to help change the offense. Okay, he's responded terribly. He's had one good game and helped them beat Phoenix. The Philadelphia 76ers game is off the board, even though he shot well in it. They won that game by 30. But Dennis Schroeder has not shot it well since he's come here. I think he's absolutely aware of that. And a lot of these players, Wiggins tonight, 4 of 10. He's been around for some time, but 9 points is not going to cut it on a night like tonight. Draymond Green cannot hit the broadside of a barn from three-point range. Lindy Waters III is hot and cold. Buddy Hield continues to shoot it just in the opposite direction of where he started this season. And so the Hields, the Moody's, I would say the Schroeders, and to some extent the Greens, those kinds of streaky players offensively, when Curry has it going, there's just this idea that when he's on the floor, it all has to go to him, because if they miss a shot, it's like we've let Steph down. And I think it is because of the way that the roster is constructed, you know, the kind of hot and cold nature of a lot of these role players that they have. And that's why I think confidence right now with the way the Warriors are constructed, and I want to take a break in a second, then come back and talk kind of bigger picture about the roster. But the way that it's constructed on a night like tonight is basically when you play with confidence, you can be a team that goes 12-3. The Warriors have lost all sense of their confidence, and Curry might be the only guy that's holding on by a thread, that last string of confidence for the Warriors, because anytime that a shot goes up, I mean, I'm sitting in media row, no one thinks it's going in, even if it's a wide open three for Buddy Hield. Even if it does go in, the next one is not. And it feels like the kind of like that almost the role players are listening to what is being written and what is basically their statistical performance. Well, the confidence right now for the Warriors is close to none, and especially shooting the basketball. Like, they shot 53s tonight, and they shot below 30% for most of the game. That's generally where you start to figure out, okay, well, let's try and get some better looks. Let's attack the mid-range. Let's try and get to the basket. This team can't really do that. They shot 5 free throws tonight. That's where you miss Kuminga. I mean, the Warriors just do not have many answers offensively, and I'm left kind of dumbfounded sometimes watching them play because it's so hard to just get a basket. It's hard to get consecutive baskets. It's hard to go on a run. And then each time they did it tonight, to their credit, it felt like the Heat had a response. And it feels like a lot of teams have just had that response when the Warriors cut it to 1. 9-0 run comes. When the Warriors go up by 8 in the first quarter, little 8-0 run by the Heat. In the second half, every time they trimmed it to single digits, okay, the Heat would push it back to 15. And those are the signs of an inconsistent team and not very good team, which is what the Warriors have been for the majority of the season now. They're 500, and they have not played good basketball after starting out in magnificent fashion. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Let's step aside, come back, and talk a big picture about the Warriors can do. Well, not even what the Warriors can do, but where I think they're at in their season after Game 36, after losing to the Miami Heat 114-98. The Warriors fall at home at Chase Center. They finished the homestand 3-3. They prepare for a road trip that starts on Thursday in Detroit. But again, we're also going to hear from Steve Kerr and get to our Crashing the Board segment on the other side. Evan Giddings with you live from the Warriors team store right here on 95.7 The Game. We're back after this.
That was ridiculous. Timeout, Miami. Curry has made it a 2-possession game with 4:23 to go in the third.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, Steph Curry was box office. You heard it from Tim Roy himself, voice of the Golden State Warriors, but it was not enough tonight. Nowhere near enough, unfortunately, as the Warriors fall to the Miami Heat. 114-98, final game of the homestand. 3-3 they finish, and now they prepare to hit the road against the Detroit Pistons. Pacers on a back-to-back. They get, I think, Washington, and if I'm not mistaken, Miami again. Toronto, Minnesota, and then Washington. So kind of a Midwest and then East Coast swing for Golden State. And what's up? What's up, Bonte?
Crisis of confidence.
Oh, crisis of confidence. You are 100% correct. That is what the Warriors are dealing with. The great Bonte Hill making a cameo appearance here on Warriors Wrap Up. Again, live from the team store. Everyone packing up here. We'll be out of here in just a little bit. But before we do, get to our final thoughts of the game, some of the big picture look-ins right now with the Golden State Warriors. I do want to get out to Tony in Oakland if Tony is still there. Tony, welcome to Warriors Wrap Up. You're on with Evan Giddings. How are you?
Oh, good. Thanks for taking the call. Look, I'm a long-time Warrior season ticket holder going back to the 70s. And we know when you were doing your monologue about Curry, being the only one now, basically playing at a high level, it just reminded me, for one thing, the Warriors in their championship years with Curry, not only did they have Durant and they had Thompson, they had Green, and they're all Hall of Famers, but they had Livingston and Iguodala and other guys who were just, he had a great cast. And, when I was thinking about, since I go way back with the Warriors, and I saw the 74-75 championship team with Rick Barry in his prime, now you appreciate a guy like Rick Barry more. On that championship team, he was pretty much the one guy. He averaged 30 a game. He was the true star. I'm not saying he won it single-handedly, but he was the one guy, and it just shows how great he was. Curry can't do that. I know Curry's older now, but he can't single-handedly carry a team even probably into the playoffs, and not let alone a championship. And I just hope, people harken back a little bit. I know it's a long time ago how great Rick Barry was, that he basically single-handedly, he was playing with the rookies and unheralded players, and that team wasn't even thought to make the playoffs that year, and took them all the way to the championship. They swept the Bullets in 4 games. Now you know how great Rick Barry was. You look back at that season, 74-75, and as great as Steph Curry is, he's probably the best Warrior, the greatest Warrior. That season by Rick Barry, 74-75, I still say was the best single season any Warrior player has ever had. And you kind of made the point in your monologue that how hard it is, for one player to really take a team so far, and he can't do it. And Kerr's got to watch his minutes. Another point is the apron. The taxes really hurt the Warriors. They can't keep their players. They haven't been able to keep them, and that's a problem. So whether or not they trade Curry, I don't know. That's something they'll have to figure out, if they're going to keep him or not. Do they trade him? Do they not? Do they hold him for the tickets and the fans, and the seats are expensive? You can only extend him 1 year at a time. They already did that. The Warriors do. You're right. They have some decisions. Their front office does have some decisions. And I don't know what Curry wants to do. Does he want to stay on a 500 team for the rest of his career? Or, I don't know. That's really something they got to figure out maybe after the season. I don't think it'll happen during the season, but maybe after the season they have to really sit down. And you know who's having the last laugh right now? It's Klay Thompson. He's sitting there on maybe a team that might go to a young, great team that might go to the finals, might win the whole thing. And he ended up smelling like a rose at the end of it, of all the things, It's all irony. It's very ironic what's happening to the Warriors now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the call. I mean, I'm not necessarily doom and gloom yet. I mean, this game was embarrassing. It was a gut punch, and that's for sure. And I appreciate the comments. Yeah, I don't know if Klay is necessarily sitting pretty. I think Dallas just got their first win in their last 5 since they lost Luka and Kyrie. But you're right, they're a better team, that's for sure. There are a lot of better teams in the association right now as far as how they've been playing over the last month and a half than the Golden State Warriors. And again, that's what the shocking part about this is. They started 12-3, and that's why I think. And we're going to get to his comments in a minute, but the word of the Warriors season is confidence. And the only one tonight against the Miami Heat who played with any confidence was Steph Curry. You cannot win basketball games like that. Curry, when the Warriors have gotten 30-point performances from him over the course of his career, they've been great. This season, before tonight, they've been 5-1. But tonight, nobody else shot the ball with confidence. Again, everyone not named Steph from three-point range combined to make about 20% of their threes. Curry went 8 of 17. The rest of the team went 6 for 33. You're not going to win games like that. I don't care if Miami was on the tail end, if they had played 3 games in a row, which you're not allowed to play in the NBA. But they're on a back-to-back where they played in double overtime in Sacramento, took a gut-punch loss, and had every reason to roll over in this basketball game. And the Warriors gave them every single reason to stay in it and eventually take this game. And I think it's because they have lost their confidence. They lost it in the month of December. They have lost it coming into the new year. And even though they found glimpses of it, again, they've been 3-1 the first 4 games of this homestand. The last 2 games, they have lost their confidence and ability to shoot the basketball, because that's really what they've become as a whole. They've become a make-or-miss team. They have become, in a 3-point driven league, a make-or-miss group. When they have won during this homestand in their 3 wins, they have shot 45% from 3, 57 for 127. When they have lost, the 3 losses during this homestand, they're 35 for 123. That's 28.4%. When they make threes, they win. When they don't, they lose. And tonight, the only guy that was making a 3 was Steph Curry. And it wasn't because they generated good looks. It's because this team right now on offense is feast or famine. And I realize they miss Kuminga. Hell, they might even miss Pods and Podziemski. But Miami had no reason to win this basketball game. And they had no reason to be in this game, especially with the Warriors playing at home with a chance to cap the homestand in a positive fashion. This is an inexcusable game, especially with the way that they played and the effort I thought that they put forth against a team that had every reason to roll over. So 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's go to Chase Center. Talk to Jonathan. Jonathan wants to get into the overall performance of the Warriors. Jonathan, how are you?
I could not be better. Let me start off by saying that whatever narrative nationally that was going on about with the Jimmy Butler saga, that Heat culture no longer exists, I think that was a statement tonight. It was a masterclass in what they have always done. And I think Warriors fans are starting to understand what it has been like the last decade for Heat fans ever since LeBron broke our hearts, betrayed us, and went back to Cleveland. Ironically, they're starting to get it. And the thing is, what the Heat have still been able to do, despite not being a team that goes to the finals anymore, is they find a way to be competitive. They fight, they claw, they play defense. They were all over the Warriors tonight, blocking shots, snagging passes. The ball movement was incredible. I was marveling at it. And this is something in this new era of Warriors basketball they're going to have to learn, especially as Steph starts to age. But I think the Heat gave, much to my delight, the perfect tutorial on what it is that the Warriors need to do in their current situation. But after the way the season started for me, I needed this in the worst way, and this was absolutely beautiful. And let it be a lesson to the Warriors moving forward that Miami may not be relevant anymore, but they certainly try harder. I didn't see the Warriors trying tonight outside of Steph, and it was very amusing to see what's frustrated me, along with everybody, most of the
Yeah, gotcha. Sorry, Jonathan. You're kind of breaking up there, but point taken. I do want to get some other people in here at 888-957-9570. Evan Giddings with you live from the Warriors team store on Warriors wrap-up after the Dubs fall to the Heat 114-190 to 98. This is from the 415. From No, one of our favorites. Easy with the hyperbole and melodrama. There's no simple, easy fix, and the Warriors are positioned and poised to make that happen. Not sure that last part, but I do think you're spot on. Like, there isn't a simple and easy fix about it. And again, that's why I think when Curry was looking up into the I don't know, into the heavens or into the stands or at the scoreboard or the fans walking out or some of the boos that we heard ring out. He knows. That's the face of a guy who knows that there is no simple and easy fix. And I think the Warriors could certainly try to make a move. I think they're attempting to, whether it works or doesn't, or, trades are hard. I don't think whatever it is going to come in and solve what the Warriors are plagued by. And again, I think it's the fact that they are not playing with confidence. This is the same group of guys that went 12-3, and their confidence was through the roof when they were hitting shots, when they were playing with joy. Again, the talent level was never high on this team, and we all knew that. But it was about, was there fit? Was there enough pieces in this group to create a team that could win consistently? And they showed that they could do that. And they have lost every semblance of confidence. And on that note, before we get to Steve Kerr, I want to fit Bob and Sam Ramon in. Wants to talk about, well, maybe it's time to panic. Bob, what's going on? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up. How we doing?
Hey there, big guy. I got to be honest, I don't know what that Miami fan was doing. Is he reading a preamble? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I do got to say, yeah, I'm here, big guy. I do got to tell you, I think it's time to panic a little bit. Usually I'm pretty patient about this stuff, but the Warriors, no one's responding. We started off so hot, so much promise. I feel like the Warriors have olden away, and, Curry's getting frustrated. Everyone's getting frustrated. So we're going to see what happens here. But, what they say, what I say to my wife, Betsy, we've been married 54 years. And I look over at her sometimes and I say, Betsy, it's time to press the panic button, sweet cheeks.
Thanks, Bob. I guess that final note was the panic button. Well, let's hear from Steve Kerr. Let's hear if he's pressing the panic button. The head coach of the Golden State Warriors following a second consecutive loss, not a good one, to a depleted and taxed Heat team on the tail end of a back-to-back. Let's hear from Steve Kerr and hear what he had to say.
My thoughts and condolences to everybody in Los Angeles dealing with the fires. My mom lives in Pacific Palisades. She had to evacuate. Everett Dayton on our staff, he grew up in Pacific Palisades. From what I gather, his family home is lost, and everything I'm seeing and reading is just terrifying what's happening down there. So just want to send thoughts to everyone who's going through, the devastation of the fire. Obviously, the game is secondary to that and to many things in life, but perspective is important. So is the game, and we're disappointed in the effort and the result tonight, and we've got to do better. Questions?
Steve, in what way did you expect more of a bounce back tonight or a readiness tonight after the Kings game?
I'm sorry?
In what way did you expect a bounce back after the Kings game?
Yeah, I expected better energy. I think we're suffering from a crisis of confidence right now, frankly. You can see it, you can feel it. I don't mind missed shots, but I mind when missed shots affect the defense and the attitude, and we feel deflated right now, and there's no room for feeling sorry for ourselves in the NBA, in life in general, right? We can't let disappointment dictate, our approach to the game. We have to do the opposite. We have to bring more fire. We have to outcompete our opponents when things aren't going our way. And that was what was most disappointing tonight. Was I just felt like everybody was down, and we didn't have a competitive spirit. And if you don't have that, you've got nothing. And so we've got to find a way to build that back up.
Steph in particular you mentioned the word deflated. He seemed deflated. Obviously he's not unconfident offensively, but it does kind of seem to feel like this slump, the team slump is weighing on him. Are you seeing that?
Yeah. I can see it. I can see it with Steph, and he's continued to be brilliant night after night. But at his core, he's a winner. He's a champion. He wants to compete at the highest level. We just saw it a few months ago in Paris. The best of the best, and he takes over the fourth quarter when everything's on the line. That's who he is. That's what he lives for. And so he is really struggling with the emotion of not being competitive right now. He probably hasn't had to deal with this since his his first couple of years in the league. So he's definitely struggling with it.
Steve, what do you think specifically their zone did to you? It just looked like maybe your guys were just hesitant to shoot in the gaps. What did that do to you?
Miami runs more zone than anybody in the league, and we knew they would play zone, especially coming off that double overtime game last night. So we were prepared for it. We got good looks against it all night. This was not a poor execution game. 28 assists and 10 turnovers. We're just 14 for 50 from the field. We missed a lot of wide open shots. So part of the reason they played zone was to preserve their legs. It wasn't that the zone was shutting us down. It was the zone allowed them to rest a little bit after such a difficult night. And what the zone does too is it just takes away a little bit of your offensive pattern and the shots maybe that you're used to getting. And so you end up, if you play zone, you give up some shots, but sometimes those are the shots you're willing to give up. And so there was some of that at play as well.
Steve, given everything that happened tonight, how nice was it to see Trey step up, especially after the rough night he had the other night?
I mean, I can't sit here after that and be excited about anything. He scored 19 points. Great. He's having a good season. But who the hell cares if we're not competitive? If we don't have a competitive spirit and a fight and a willingness to compete through everything, then I'm not going to sit here and talk about, hey, so-and-so had some points. Great. Who cares? It's about us competing and being the Warriors, being the team we've been for 10 years and not feeling sorry for ourselves. That's what I'm thinking about tonight.
Some strong words from Steve Kerr after the Warriors' 114-98 loss to the Heat, and Kerr is certainly not without criticism this season, but it just has me thinking. Again, Evan Giddings with you here on Warriors Wrap live from the Warriors team store after that embarrassing defeat to the Miami Heat. And listening to him especially talk at the end, and it's not so much about Trayce Jackson-Davis and him coming down hard on the sophomore. Again, had 19.7 rebounds. I've mentioned the fact that, and I've said it before, if Trayce Jackson-Davis is your second leading scorer, you're in trouble. Steve Kerr sounded fed up. He did. He sounded fed up with the effort that he's been receiving from his group. He sounded fed up with perhaps the answers that he's tried to himself provide that have not worked. They're 6-15 in their last 21 games. And I think Curry looked also fed up at the end of that game. Not necessarily in an angry way, because that's not who he is, but he looked perplexed. He looked like someone who is out of answers, and Kerr sounds like someone who is currently out of answers, and that's not an equation for success. If you don't believe your team is competing hard, it's impossible to coach them. I don't care what kind of players you have. The Warriors are a 500 basketball team, and the fact that they had a chance to stack a win, to go into the road with some momentum against a team that was asking to get their ass kicked tonight. You heard Kerr mention the fact that they're playing zone to preserve what little energy they have. They were basically daring the Warriors to shoot, and with the Warriors shooting 28% from three-point range, even if they were generating good looks, it tells me that they weren't shooting with any confidence, and that's where the Warriors have been resigned to. So I think Kerr he's out of answers, and both he and Curry are looking to the front office to provide them with some. And I don't know if it's a trade, I don't know if it's a statement, but it's some sort of direction, because right now this team is middling, and they're spiraling in the wrong direction, where at the end of this road trip, but the way that they played tonight, they very easily could be below 500 coming in, less than 40 games into a season where they started 12-3. That's a pretty damning place to be if you're the Warriors. And so, we're going to talk about this a lot tomorrow from 6 to 6. Bonte and Shasky in the morning, and Bonte popped by the the Warriors team shop just to stop in. And, again, crisis of confidence, just to emphasize that statement from Kerr we heard off the top of his press conference. Steiny and Guru are going to get into it. I think Guru's already put out a video on social media voicing some of his thoughts, and I can't blame Gu, but he might be out of answers too. And then, of course, Willard and Dibbs in the afternoon. But overall, a very, very difficult night for the Warriors. I think a lot of things to look at in the mirror. And it all centers around Steph. I don't think it's sometimes things happen for a reason. And today there was a feature story wrote about Curry and his place right now. Really the place that we saw the Warriors get stuck in tonight by Tim Kewen of ESPN about how Curry is being relied on more than ever. And the Warriors have to be in a place where at age 36, they're trying to use him less than ever. But it's hard to justify that on a night like tonight where he's the only thing that is preventing this Chase Arena, which is a magnificent acropolis built on the water, from everybody walking out of that place unhappy and unsatisfied with the money that they spent, the hard-earned cold cash that they spent on this team that is not giving them the product that they've become accustomed to, the product that Kerr was referring to over the last 10 years, and not even just the level, I'm not talking even championships, but just the level of competitiveness on a day-to-day basis, which has been absent from this team for the majority of this season. That's what they're talking about, and that's why Curry tonight was the only thing in my mind, the bridge between the boos that we heard about a year ago cascade down from when the New Orleans Pelicans and the Toronto Raptors came in and kicked the Warriors' ass in back-to-back nights at home. He was the only thing preventing that from happening tonight against the Miami Heat in a game in which the Heat were depleted, were taxed, are Jimmy Butler-less, are in the middle of every single rumor mill for all the wrong reasons, and they beat you, and they washed you at home. I know that it was close in the fourth quarter, but this was a game that the Warriors, I think, struggled. They fought just to get to the place where the Heat would drag them across the finish line. And it was just really hard to watch, and it was hard to listen to Kerr. I'm sure Curry's talking or will talk in the middle of the this question or this post-game show. I'm looking forward to listening to that. But overall, we're in a position with the Warriors that is a very foreign spot in the last 15 years, and that's again what Kerr's talking about with Steph. He's in an unfamiliar position to where he's looking up. He has 31 points. He's feeling it. And the Warriors are down by 15, and they're about to lose their second consecutive game at home. That's just not a place where Steph is accustomed to being. He was at one point, and he thought he left it long behind. But apparently, the NBA gods had different plans. All right, 415, Comcast Business Text Line. Question of the day, what is Dunleavy doing? I hear Kerr exhorting the front office and ownership when he refers to effort and urgency and being competitive. He wasn't just talking to his players. He was talking to Dunleavy and Lacob directly. The phrase crisis of confidence, the word confident, will receive plenty of packing and unpacking in the coming days and weeks. I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you. Steve Kerr is not an idiot. He's been around this game for a long time. I know that some people might not believe he's the greatest coach, or maybe he's overrated, or he hasn't done some things right this season. He's not an idiot. He's been in this game and has held virtually every single role possible. He knows when a team's in trouble. And he knows when a team is in trouble not because of basketball. It's because, again, it feels like this team tonight, outside of Steph and maybe a couple of glimpses from other players, was largely lifeless against the Walking Dead, who played 55 freaking minutes last night in Sacramento. So he sounds like someone who is pleading. I thought Curry might have been asking the front office for something publicly in this piece that Tim Kewen wrote, talking about how desperately he wants to win, and he realizes that not everything can come, but a fifth championship would mean the world to him, and how maybe the front office wasn't even all in on the 2022 season, and how he might need some more help now. But overall, it's a difficult spot that the Warriors are trying to wrestle with, and all they can do is again, I mentioned this during pregame, because this was a possibility tonight. I didn't foresee it, but it was a possibility. The word that right now the Warriors need to lean into is endure. They need to endure this, and until they make a trade, which either has to come in the coming days, or we have to have I think a direction. The team has to have a direction of where this thing is going, so they can know what they're dealing with, and that help either is or is not coming, because the front office has been largely silent, and I realize that trades are not easy to pull off, but this team is in desperate need of some sort of shakeup, especially with the extended absence of someone like Jonathan Kuminga, who's probably been the brightest young spot or up-and-coming figure of this season. Curry's been awesome, but Kuminga's been the only guy that really has taken a massive step forward since the beginning of this year. And once this season began to go off the rails after Game 15, he's been one of the few people that has taken strides forward. So they are not going to have him for some time, and they're going to have to figure this thing out. So for right now, they need to endure. All right, it's time for our Crashing the Board segment, brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Again, not a lot tonight to really dig into positively, but Draymond Green did have 10 rebounds. He also had 10 assists, nearly had a triple-double, had a double-double in assists and rebounds. Leading rebounder tonight for the Golden State Warriors, although I didn't think he played particularly well tonight. Only had 1 turnover, did have 10 assists, but you could just tell by his play. He also wasn't particularly engaged this evening, in my opinion. None more, I think, revealing than when Duncan Robinson just took him off the dribble and went all the way to the rack. And it was just like, that never happens to Draymond Green. It just doesn't. And there were guys going off the bounce at him tonight. And overall, again, just not a great night for the Warriors as a whole. But that is our Crashing the Board segment, brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. All right, that'll about do it for this edition of Warriors Wrap-Up. I appreciate everybody tuning in to this Warriors Team Store edition. Again, a fantastic place to come grab some products, whether it's before or after the game. All your freshest Warriors gear resides here at the Warriors Team Store. A big thank you to everybody that made this broadcast possible. As always, our man Cam back in our 95.7 The Game studio, Cameron Williams, our 95.7 The Game Warriors network coordinator, to either Carter or Chris, who are back there cutting tonight. Very much appreciate you making us sound great as far as the sound side is concerned. Big thank you to all of those of you who tuned in, who texted in, who called in. We appreciate the conversation. As again, we try and figure this thing out together with the Warriors not in a great place on January 7th. 18-18, 10-10 at home. They finished the homestand 500. 500 has been a number that is pretty much synonymous with everything that they've been doing right now, as they have a 4-game road trip coming up that begins on Thursday in Detroit, 4 o'clock. Warriors Live will be with Willard and Dibbs at 3:30. I believe Mark Grandy is going to have post-game and Warriors wrap-up for you after that. But in the meantime, again, thank you to all those of you who have tuned in to this edition of Warriors Wrap-Up. My name is Evan Giddings, saying so long, and we'll talk to you next time. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for all your Warriors coverage as we try and roll through this on your home for Golden State basketball, 95.7 The Game. Have a good night, everyone.